Have you ever wondered if the Bible might be more than just a source of spiritual guidance? I mean, what if it also holds clues, a kind of blueprint for physical health that science is just now starting to catch up with? Well, today, we're going to dive right into that fascinating idea, where ancient scriptures meet modern labs.
Okay, that's a pretty bold statement, isn't it? The idea that some of the best medicine could be found in an ancient text? It's intriguing, for sure. So let's actually look at the evidence. We're going to see what these claims are all about and how they really stack up against today's clinical research.
All right, first things first, let's look at the case for this. We're going to focus on three really prominent things you see in the Bible: olive oil, honey, and an herb called hyssop. We'll see what modern science has to say about them, and some of it is pretty remarkable.
So let's start with something that's mentioned, believe it or not, over 140 times in the Bible: olive oil. And it wasn't just for cooking. No way. It was used to anoint kings, to light lamps, and, you guessed it, as medicine. It really was the liquid gold of the ancient world.
Think about the famous story of the Good Samaritan. When he helps the injured man, he uses olive oil. And this wasn't some symbolic thing. It was actual frontline medical care. He applied it right to the wounds to help them heal. And it turns out modern science can tell us exactly why that worked so well. And this is where it gets really fascinating. These aren't just vague ideas like, oh, it's good for you. We're talking about specific compounds called polyphenols. One of them, found in extra virgin olive oil, is called oleocanthal. Get this, it has anti-inflammatory properties that work a lot like ibuprofen, a powerful, natural medicine that's been hiding in plain sight.
Okay, let's move on to another one, a food that the Bible often describes as a sign of pure abundance and strength: honey. It was seen as this incredible life-giving gift.
You see verses like this, and it sounds like simple fatherly advice, right? Eat honey, it's good for you. But beyond just being sweet and tasty, modern science is finding out that honey is an incredibly powerful medicine, something our ancestors definitely seem to understand on some level.
But here is the absolute key. We're talking about raw honey. The kind our ancestors ate was totally unheated, unfiltered. And that's so important because the heating process used for most commercial honey today actually destroys the very enzymes that give it these amazing antimicrobial powers. So that clear, runny stuff in the plastic bear, it's just not the same thing. Not even close.
All right, finally, let's check out an herb that was a huge deal in the Old Testament, especially in purification rituals. It's called hyssop. It was used to cleanse everything: people, houses, holy places, from disease and what they called impurity.
This line from the Psalms is, a beautiful prayer for spiritual cleansing. But it's using a very real physical act as its metaphor, being purified with hyssop. And it turns out there was a very real scientific reason why they used this specific plant.
And this just brings it all home, doesn't it? The biblical instruction to use an antimicrobial plant for purification was also just incredibly smart medical advice. It shows you how these spiritual practices were often tied directly to things that literally just worked to keep people from getting sick.
So the science backing up these foods is pretty solid. It's hard to argue with. But that leads us to a much, much deeper question. What was the point of all the biblical food laws in the first place? And this right here is the big turning point. Because, while it's really tempting to look at these laws as just an ancient health guide, a lot of theologians would say, hold on a minute. They argue the main goal wasn't about nutrition or preventing disease at all. It was about something else entirely.
So you basically have two main camps. On one side, you have the health and wellness view, which says these laws are a kind of divine diet plan, where unclean foods are just biologically bad for you. But then you have the theological view, which says, no, the point was about setting the people of Israel apart, creating a unique identity, and teaching spiritual discipline through daily choices about food.
And that theological argument, it's not just pulled out of thin air. It's really anchored in some key moments in the New Testament that talk directly about these old food laws and pretty fundamentally changed the game.
One of the biggest moments is this line right here, from the Gospel of Mark. After Jesus teaches that what really matters is what comes out of your heart, not what goes into your stomach, the author adds this little note. It's this profound comment that many scholars see as bringing the era of ceremonial food laws to a close.
And this idea gets reinforced in a huge way for the Apostle Peter, a guy who had lived by these rules his entire life. He has this crazy divine vision where he's basically told that those old lines between clean and unclean don't apply anymore. It was a massive shift in thinking.
And if you need more, look at this. If the laws were purely about health, you'd expect them to be biologically consistent, right?
But that's not always what we find. Take chickens and pigs. Chickens were clean, pigs were unclean. Yet they share a lot of traits. Both can be scavengers, and yep, both can carry diseases if not handled properly. So if it wasn't strictly about biology, what was it about?
So how do we make sense of this? We've got real, proven health benefits on one hand and this deep, ceremonial purpose on the other. So let's try to put it all together to see what the bigger picture looks like for us today.
And here's the key, I think. Both things can actually be true. The original intent of the law might have been about holiness and identity, but the actual foods that were central to that world, well, they just happen to be incredibly good for you.
And this isn't just ancient history. In fact, all those staples of the biblical diet, the olives, the figs, fish, whole grains, they form the foundation of something we talk about all the time now, the Mediterranean diet. And it's consistently ranked as one of the healthiest ways to eat on the entire planet. The wisdom was in the whole pattern, not just in avoiding a few specific things.
So what's the bottom line for us? Well, it's probably not about trying to perfectly follow a set of ancient rules. It's more about appreciating the timeless wisdom that's baked into these traditions. You know, the incredible value of eating real, whole, unprocessed foods. And remembering that food is about so much more than just fuel. It's about community, gratitude, and connection. And that kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. Maybe what these ancient traditions really offer us today isn't a strict list of do's and don'ts, but an invitation. An invitation to completely rethink our relationship with food, to see it not just as calories, but as a source of genuine health, connection, and even gratitude.